So in my laboratory, we work on a class of enzyme called dead bugs protein. Okay, people, it's very hard to read. Okay, and so these proteins are ubiquitous. So I'm going to talk. So imagine I'm beginning the seminar, and I begin to give introduction. So today I'm going to tell you about this class of enzyme. These are ubiquitous. Now you notice that I say ubiquitous. That is the language I immediately implicate that is important because it's everywhere. Okay, and these enzymes are all related to everything related to RNA. Again, that's important. Now, nearly all are essential. They are important. So I will continue to go on like this and talk about these things. Now you notice that I highlight the importance of the key features of this class of enzymes. I emphasize that they are very important. Okay? At the very end, I said that our laboratory contribute to an understanding of a concept called RNAPS. These enzymes are not only RNA helicases, but also they remodel RNPs, okay, ribonucleic protein particles, etc., using ATP hydrolysis. So our laboratory will be, so still the introduction, okay? So my laboratory is working on a helicase called PRP28. It is responsible to remove a green ball out of the spliceosome and then to allow the U6, the red ball, to join it. And how do we know that? Okay, the reason that we know that PRP28 is responsible for that is by the following genetic experiment. Now, here, just pause a second. You try to sense by the language I use. I try to tone down the language or lower down the language that everybody can assess what I talk about, using a language that's understandable to pretty much to everyone. Okay? So I said, okay, now, the reason that we know PRP28 is working on to remove this green ball is because if you make important mutation right here to make the green ball become wobbly, unstable, PRP28 is not needed. So it must then counteract to remove the U1. So that is our first layer of evidence. And then if we further evidences support this idea, because when we make multiple mutation that affect the U1 binding to the 5' splice site, PRP28 is no longer needed. All the data are consistent with PRP28 is important for removing the U1. Okay? Now, so the question, okay, so that I cover why that is important. Remember helicases, ubiquitous, etc., but indicate their importance. Where are we? How did we get there? The two slides I cover, where are we? Now, what should I cover? Where are we going? What are the critical questions, right? So that's the next part. So in the next one, I'm going to ask a very important question. That is, we uncover that PRP28 is to bounce off a particle. Could that be true that other helicase is doing exactly the same thing, using the same principle? So here is my virtual mentor, Dobrzhansky. Okay, Theodosis Dobrzhansky. He said one time, nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. So I would then ask the following question. Is PRP28 is to remove U1? Could it be there will be other helicases that are responsible also to remove something else? So this principle gets used over and over and over again in evolution. So that becomes an important guiding principle in biology. So what I have just finished, this sentence is to emphasize, look guys, you should sit here, listen to me. I'm going to tell you an important story. So you have to try to do that in your introduction to catch people's attention, to emphasize that your thing is important, that you're going to tell them in the following 30 minutes. Okay, so then I go to the slide and say, okay, here what we have uncovered is the following thing. We ask the following question. Now, U1 bind to the 5' splice site, and PRP28 is responsible to remove it. Now, here's our two proteins, the blue ball and purple. They have to bind to this site. But then, we also know that these two proteins has to be removed so that U2 can bind to it. Now, here I want you to appreciate a little bit. Maybe you already caught it, but maybe you haven't. the simplicity of the slide. Simplicity. Simple. There are not tons of writing. Haven't you seen that in our typical seminar? Professor will put out a slide, there will be 5,000 words on it. Impossible to read, right? But you look at this kind of slide, it's very simple design. Colorful, high contrast. Okay? If you sit 100 feet away, you still can see it very well. That's a good slide. Okay? So I will come back to that issue. So those two proteins has to be removed. So one would wonder, we ask the following question. Since PRP28 removed this one, could there be a helicase that also remove the previous two proteins responsible to that? If that is the case, then the evolutionary principle can be built. The concept of evolutionary principle can be built. The same concept used over and again in evolution. So previous data have already shown that this is possible because if you remove one of the group ball, you no longer need a helicase for sub2. So we wonder, this holds up if we make mutation here, so making these things become unstable, so you no longer need this one. That is the question I want to address today. So that would be my introduction. I kind of have a shorter version of introduction. I'm not trying to tell you the science. I'm just trying to demonstrate how you should do it. And make sure you have all the components ready. Where were we? Where are we? What is the critical question? Where are we going? Okay? Now, so then our idea is that we can make mutation here, and then that will not require sub2. That's the goal. We want to do that. Okay, so that's the introduction part. Make sure you spend sufficient time and clearly explain what you want, where you want to go, so that audience can stay with you. Now, I have seen many talks. People don't spend time on introduction. They make a lot of assumptions. They think everybody is an expert. Everybody is special. The guys would spend one slide and then jump into the data, and then from slide number 2, everybody getting lost. So don't do that. That's bad. Now, the second rule I told you is that to make things simple, right? The way that you're going to make one thing simple is not to write a lot of words. Let me emphasize. Don't put a lot of words in one single slide. That's a no-no, because no one can read it. That is a no-no, absolutely no-no. Put as few writing as possible. So another way to do it is by introduce picture, diagram, graphics, so that people can grasp the idea rapidly. So as Americans say, a picture is more than 1,000 words. Yes, you heard a lot of seminar, and then the people have a lot of pictures in there, right? But don't make things too complicated. Let me show you one example, a bad example that you have seen many times in presentation. The signal transduction hell. That's what I call it, hell. What is the problem of these slides? That was commonly seen in Taiwan seminar. The problem is that no one knows where to begin, and no one knows where to end. So imagine that I'm the speaker, I show this slide. Imagine yourself in the audience was trying to decipher this slide. I would probably want to talk about this part, but your eyes will be shifting here, and then he will be looking there, and the other person will look in there. So the problem of that is that nobody's on the same spectrum. Very quickly, in 1 or 2 minutes, everybody get lost. So that's hell. Don't do that. Later on, I'm going to show you how you can change that, make it better. Now, I call it the great chemistry torture chamber. Whenever I see this kind of chemistry slide, I just go, oh my God, oh, where should I be looking for? And guess what? A lot of chemists do that. They did not even realize that. They did not even realize that this slide immediately turned off the seminar, the audience. They turn it on, they turn them off. A lot of these kind of things can be highlighted and then blow up, and then just focus on that. You don't have to try to show everything. Okay? You can show one, they say, okay, well, we have a very complicated biosynthetic pathway, but today I'm not going to talk about everything. I'm going to highlight this particular area, and then you switch to another slide, just blow everything up, just those areas. That's good enough. Okay? Another slide, better, a lot better. Now, this is one was designed by my postdoc. So people who have studied biology, look at this slide. I invite you to decipher the slides, to make sense of this slide without I even talk about it. I think you pretty much know what it is going to talk about, right? I don't have to tell you. It was just basically saying, okay, well, we have an RNA polymerase II machine. That moving on this black line, that's the DNA, making RNA, a lot of protein bind to it, splicing happen. Eventually, the intron get cut out and then get exported. That's a good slide design. Simplicity, colorful, high contrast. Okay? A lot of students have very ingenious idea. They put a lot of color onto it. Say, for example, they would probably put the black world, okay, red color on top of the black color. You can see it. Okay? You look at the contrast. Here we carefully designed it in such a way everything was obvious from 100 feet away. You should do this job. That is the speaker's job. Okay? So that's a nice way. So in bottom line is that what is a good slide design? As Dr. Holmes said that learn how to do good slide design is very important to deliver a talk effectively. The principle is very simple. You have to become understandable at a glance. When people look at it, they pretty much understand 80% what you want to say. Okay? And they look at it for 5 seconds, they understand 80% what you're going to say. That's a good slide design. If they have absolutely no idea what you're going to talk about, that's a poor design. So that you can use this principle to do it. So all you have to do is to think from the audience perspective. Just imagine that you have that signal transduction hill slide. And switch yourself to the audience. If I sit right there, I look at that slide, can I understand? And then that's no, I have to change. I have to change. All right, so here is another good slide design. Simple, straightforward, colorful, in high contrast, central dogma heaven. Here is not a bad one, okay? So you don't want to do that. Now, how do you deal with very complicated slide? That you must use it. You're just so lazy. You just want to take out from the internet and then thrust into your PowerPoint file. And you don't want to remake it. It's too complicated. How do you do it? So I developed a rule called, long time ago, in ancient times, many years ago, there was many groups of singers sing a song called Breaking Up is Hard to Do. Okay? Breaking up between boyfriend, girlfriends is very hard to do. What I've been trying to say is breaking up is easier to understand. So you have to learn how to break it up. And then this is my team called Bendang and Dong team. Okay, so all right. So here's one example that you see this so many times in school teaching, including seminar. Full of words. When you are in the audience, at least to myself, when I see a slide like this, I immediately get turned off. And sometimes I attempt to read it. But now we have a problem. You have a speaker that's talking. And you are sitting there trying to read it. And the speaker was talking, you cannot hear the speaker. Right? And you are trying to read, intragenic reduction, intragenic reduction. And then the speaker was up to here. Okay, I have to catch up here. So the spectrum immediately separated. You lost. Speaker lose you. So this is a terrible slide design. A little bit better, just a little bit better. Not satisfactory better, but just better, is to break it up. So all you have to do is to do simple animation. Okay?